You are watching a crime in progress. These two geniuses are currently stealing one of our own staff members' bikes. The irony? This is our building. We are literally a CCTV supplier. There is a giant sign right there. They are robbing a security company. So yeah, we got robbed, but since we paid for this footage with a bike, we figured we might as well make some use out of it. You are witnessing a real-time crime, which makes this the perfect opportunity to show you the actual differences between a 5 megapixel and 4K camera when the pressure is on. As you can see, our two uninvited guests rush into the business estate. They already have their mindset on that bike, helmets on, thinking they're absolutely invisible. But let's freeze it here, and let's take a look at the differences between 5 megapixel and 4K in action once more. Honestly, at this shorter distance, any IP camera over 2 megapixels, equivalent to 1080p, will pick up a registration plate just fine. But let's be real, we don't care about 2 megapixel cameras anymore. So old-fashioned. We're here to see what happens when you get further away from the cameras. Now, let's push out the 5 meters. This is the cut-off point for older tech. Anything less than 5 megapixels here is going to struggle to give you an accurate reading of the license plate. Moving further back into the 6 to 11 meter zone, on the 5 megapixel camera, the plate is starting to soften. You can make out the general shapes, you could probably guess the numbers, but it's not as effective as it was at 5 megapixels. However, 4K once again is still holding strong, giving you a nice clear license plate to read. In fact, get out to 16 or 17 meters, and 4K still gives you a relatively good image to actually make out some details. You can still figure out the general shapes of the characters, but beyond that, you hit a wall. Technology can only go so far. It becomes difficult for any standard wide-angle camera to recognize a plate still that far away. But why? Why can't we just enhance it, like in movies, you know? Well, simply put, it's not magic, it's just math. At the technical level, images are just pixels. The higher the resolution, the more pixels you can pack into every single meter of the view. We measure this in ppm, also known as pixels per meter. To get that crispy clear zone where you can read a number plate with zero guesswork, you need roughly 260 pixels per meter. This means that every single number on the plate is represented by about 20 vertical pixels. This is enough detail to tell the difference between a D and an O, or an 8 and a B. And here's the cheat sheet for the crispy 260 ppm zone. 1080p hits its limit at about 4 meters. 5 megapixel gets you to about 5.5, and 4K extends past 8 meters. Anything beyond that, well, you're hitting below to 130 ppm. Physics simply take over. There simply aren't enough pixels left to display anything meaningful. It's a physical impossibility. We can only go so far. However, that doesn't mean you can't protect a long driveway. It just means you can't use a standard wide-angle lens to do it. To see further, you would need some kind of optical zoom. Take a look at this shot here. The license plate is about 30 to 40 meters away. It's crystal clear. Why? Because the lens is physically zoomed in, concentrating all those pixels onto the target. Of course, there's some kind of trade-off to be had here. Everyone knows the phrase tunnel vision, right? You focus so hard on something that you kind of miss things that are going around your target. That applies here with the camera also. You're zooming in so far that you're going to lose things in the peripheral vision. That is why for the ideal CCTV system, you want 3 things for a perfect balance. 1, a fixed 2.8mm camera. These are essentially your eyes everywhere. They look around at everything they can. You're not really focusing on anything in particular. They just give you a general idea of what's going on. 2, motorized varifocal cameras, around the range of 2.7mm to 13.5mm. Now these are my personal favorite. They give you about 5 times the optical zoom as opposed to a standard camera. You won't be using them to see miles away, but for medium distances, they're just the right kind of thing to help you get some more details just out of that camera if you feel like there's something out there that you want to get your eyes on. But for medium adjustments when you're doing the installation process, they'll help you punch in that little bit more of detail that you want to see down your driveway. And third, and finally last, the Sniper. A high zoom PTZ camera, PTZ of course standing for pan, tilt and zoom, that allows you 10 to 20 times the zoom as opposed to, say, our medium range camera that give you 5 times. You point this specifically at your gate or your entrance. Nothing else matters at this point. You're fixated solely on that one place. Combine these 3 things together and you get the context and the power to easily get an idea of who came into your building and where. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the difference between a 4K camera and a 5 megapixel camera. We hope you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. I hope you send us well wishes for our stolen bike, of course. That's all we have for you people today. Have a nice day. Yeah, that's Domar CCTV out.